Welcome to InkThinks. The inclusion of Sephiroth in Smash is crazy. We needed more villains in Smash, and he's such an iconic character with such a really cool design and sword in my opinion, that I'm really stoked to have him in the game. But what's way more interesting to me than his inclusion in Smash itself is the ramifications that his inclusion is going to have on DLC speculation going forward. But the question most specifically I hear brought up over and over is whether or not Sephiroth disconfirms Sora or Geno or Chrono or any other characters who are involved with Square Enix. I think that there's a lot going on here, and I think it's worth breaking down, so let's get into it. So Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, Super Mario RPG, and Kingdom Hearts in cooperation with Disney were all created by Square Enix. Naturally, as more and more characters get added to Smash from Square Enix, such as Hero or Cloud or Sephiroth, people wonder whether or not this is going to have a bearing on the inclusion of Square Enix's other characters. And honestly, I don't know, and anyone who tells you that they do know are lying to you, themselves, or both. Look, here's the deal. Before Sephiroth's inclusion, I think most people agreed that we probably wouldn't get multiple characters from the same game. I mean, I don't know why we thought that. We had Ken and Ryu, but that tended to be the general consensus. Not to mention that before Steve was added to the game, one of the biggest reasons I heard brought up against him is that he couldn't get into the game because Banjo-Kazooie was already represented. Now, the basic ownership with Microsoft of Banjo-Kazooie and Minecraft, it's a lot more complicated than it might initially seem. But I think we've been seeing more and more that multiple characters from the same company don't matter. And I'm noticing this weird phenomena going on where people say, well, two characters won't get in from the same company, and then Sephiroth gets in, and then they say with the same logic and a totally straight face, well, three characters surely can't get in. That would totally not make any sense. And while part of me does think that, yeah, it might be a stretch for three characters from the same company to get into the game in DLC, I don't think we can say anything definitively anymore. For all we know, Nintendo kept its negotiations with a few companies to keep things simpler. It doesn't seem to me like Nintendo is really pushing for a wide variety of games or genres to come to Smash. I mean, we have seen some new genres be represented in Smash, but I don't think that Sakurai is going out of his way to do things like add a horror rep to the game. On top of all of this, I think we can see that Sakurai isn't scared away by fighters having the same weapons as other characters. That's something I heard about Jonesy regarding Minecraft Steve, is that they both build, and so there's no way Jonesy could get in the game. But I don't know, as time goes on, it just seems more and more that Sakurai and Nintendo aren't necessarily interested in diversifying the range of the DLC and more interested on maximizing hype and fan satisfaction with the DLC. So this brings us back to our favorite Square Enix characters, or in Sora's case, Disney/Square Enix. It's complicated, I don't want to get into it. Here's a video in the top right hand corner if you want to see more. Is it possible for these characters to get into the game? Yes, absolutely. Every single one of these characters, whether it's Chrono, Sora, Geno, or others, of course it's still possible for them to get into the game. We've seen more and more examples of these so-called fan rules being broken, and I don't see anything to suggest why these characters couldn't still come. Now, honestly, part of me does want to say, well, we have gotten two from this company, so we're not getting a third. But while I do want to say that off of some sort of gut hunch, I don't have anything to back that up, and no one has anything to back that up, really. For all we know, they are just as likely as any other character. So if I were to go off of my personal hunch, I'd say, yeah, it hurts their chances. But if we were to make an assumption based off of the evidence that we have, it's impossible to say whether or not this affects their chances, or if any of them are getting into the game. Ultimately, I don't think that Sephiroth's inclusion works too hardly against Sora or Geno or any of these other characters, and I think that's really important to keep in mind. Going forward in the Smash speculation scene, we're gonna have to rely a lot more on opinions rather than facts, because if we rely solely on facts, I don't know, our metric hasn't been good so far, and there's not a ton to go off of. It's gonna make things more interesting, and I also think it leaves nearly every road open. So, does Sephiroth's inclusion in Smash disqualify the other Square Enix characters? No, it doesn't. Do I want to see more characters get in? Absolutely. Who do I think is gonna get in? I have no freaking idea. I gotta contemplate on that for a little while. Anyway, click the video on the right to see one of my most recent videos, or click the video on the left to see something that YouTube handpicked just for you. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and until next time, stay smashing.